Alright, today's video is going to be a bit more serious. I'm going to be talking about mental health. I'm not sure what the right way to present this info is or when the right time to present this info would be. All I'm doing is simply relaying what my experience with it was and what helped me, with hopes that anyone out there might find something that I say useful. Could be the case. Again, I just need to advise, I am not a medical professional or a psychologist or a psychoanalyst or any sort of researcher of these sort of topics. I am just sharing what my experience with it was, with hopes again that anyone might find something beneficial from it. So to get into it, I just need to explain a little bit about how I got into a bad state of mind when I was 20 years old. And I think it was a result of many, many years of being a pessimist. I always used to say that being pessimistic is more realistic than being optimistic. And I was always anticipating where things could go wrong so that I wouldn't be too disappointed when things did. The only problem is that this did shape my brain into always trying to anticipate negative things all the time. It got to a point where my first reaction to something that happens, like I would just walk past someone in the street, and my first time noticing them, I would think something negative for no reason. And it got to a point where it was going on and on so much that I couldn't escape from it. I wasn't enjoying uni during my second year of uni when I was 20 years old, and that was also contributing to my mindset. Although I was quite successful, to be honest, I managed to get a placement year job, and I was on the path that I had set myself many years earlier. When I was 16, I thought I want to be a programmer in the IT industry in the UK, and I managed to get to that point. I got the job, but I was still feeling really bad, and I was doubting the path that I was on. I also had a massive fear of missing out at that time. It was at its peak, let's say. If my friends were in another room and they were laughing, my brain for some reason would just assume that they were laughing at my expense and they didn't want to include me on the joke because I might have been an unattractive person, let's say, or had an unattractive personality. So I just had a negative bias, which meant that I would instinctively react negatively to everything. That's just the way that my brain worked. It got to a point where I started having panic attacks because I just wanted to have one positive thought, but my brain after a few seconds would generate another negative one, after a few seconds generate another one, and I couldn't escape from it, to the point where I would hit myself in my head with a lot of force because just having some physical pain to focus on was more bearable than the mental pain that I was going through when I was at my worst. What my friends did at this point, they recommended that I talk to a therapist. They said they don't have the advice that I need really, and I should probably talk to a professional, which was the best advice I could have gotten at that time. So I went to see a therapist, and on my first day, I got diagnosed with depression, autism, attention deficit disorder, an extreme lack of assertiveness, and a negative bias. And I didn't really get better in the first few weeks that I went to therapy because I didn't admit that I have depression. I always thought what I had is different to what other people go through. What other people go through, that's real depression caused by real reasons. I didn't feel like I had a real reason to say that I was depressed. I didn't recognize about how my brain had just been building up this mindset to always expect the worst with a negative bias could cause depression. I never admitted it. So one of the first things I had to do was admit that. Another thing that I had to do was believe that the solutions that I was being offered by my therapist and the solutions that I heard other people talk about, whether it's on the internet or friends, I needed to believe that these solutions could work. Because as long as I believed that these solutions only work for other people and it wouldn't work for me, then I was never going to get better. There's this expression by the YouTuber Cole Hastings, and I really like this expression because it makes perfect sense, which is, whether you believe that you can change or that you can't change, you're right. If you believe that you can't change, you're right and you won't change. But if you believe you can change, which is the first step to changing, then you will change. So I needed to change those two things. First, I needed to admit that I had a problem so I could even go about fixing it. And then I had to believe that solutions could work. And one of the other things that really helped was learning the concept of neuroplasticity. And I realized that what my brain was really just years and years of shaping it in one way, let's say with a negative bias, but I could shape it in another way if I really wanted to. So the example that I gave earlier, when I was walking down the street and someone would pass by, once I put in my mind that I can change my brain to be positive, they would pass by and I'd fire off a negative thought. I didn't control that. That's just the way I was. But then I would take a step back and I'd realize, wait, I just fired off a negative thought. I'm going to choose a positive thought now. And I would just think something simple like, I hope this person has a really good day and I hope they don't ever have to feel the way I do, because I was feeling quite bad at the time. And then I would just continue. And maybe at the beginning I would only notice this once a day. And then the next day maybe I would do 2 positive thoughts. When I recognize, wait, I just automatically went negative, I can choose a positive one. And it's slow at the beginning. And I didn't really improve my mindset from one day to another. But slowly as the days went on, I was choosing to put more positive thoughts. And this was shaping my brain through neuroplasticity into just a more positive experience. So that really helped me. And the last things I want to mention that really helped me are meditation. I started off by doing the Wim Hoff breathing method. You can just search it right now on YouTube. It's 11 minutes. And I'd say when I started practicing this, I removed most of the stress in my life. The way that this breathing method works is you take 30 deep breaths in about 1.5 minutes, fully in and fully out. And on the 30th, you breathe out and you just hold. With no air in your lungs, you just hold. And what this does is your body starts reacting. You've got your spinal cord and all your nerves near your lungs that recognize that when there isn't this movement and when it's empty, it's sending you a sign that says, hey, you're at the risk of dying. But because you've loaded your blood with oxygen with 30 deep breaths, you can actually last quite a long time without any air in your lungs. And so you keep going and you keep going and you hold and you hold and you hold. And more signals are being sent by your body saying, dude, breathe, you've got to breathe, otherwise you're going to die. But you remain calm with it. And what this does is basically you're submitting yourself to a lot of physical stress. Your brain and your neurons are recognizing this is a very stressful situation, but you're remaining calm in it. It will reach a point where you're going to have to just breathe in when you can't hold it out any longer, and that's fine. But when you follow this video, try to last the 60 seconds, the 90 seconds, and the 90 seconds that's recommended in the video. The more you practice it, the longer you'll last. I've lasted 3 minutes holding my breath. I've gone on too long on this point, but what it did essentially is, whenever I had a uni deadline after I did a Wim Hof breathing method, I wasn't half as stressed as I used to be, less than that I would say, because I knew that my body could tolerate serious physical stress. I knew that the other stresses, mental stresses that I was going to have through life weren't going to affect me as much. And then I also used the Waking Up app by Sam Harris. This is a fantastic application. Absolutely get it if you're new to meditation and you haven't practiced it before. It's a good introduction into the mindset that you should be aiming for when you are meditating. I also got introduced to the concept of Stoicism. I was introduced to it by PewDiePie when he made his book reviews. And Stoicism is fantastic. The most important thing it teaches you is to separate that which you can control from that which you can't control. And you've got to learn to let go of all the things that you can't control and not be attached to it whatsoever. And then you start paying attention only to the things that you can control. And you can control your own time and how you spend it. So that's where you should be focusing your time, really, on that which you do control, which is yourself. Anything that happens with other people, how they react, what they say, what they do, you will never have control over that. Never. So don't believe that you can, because if you do, you're just going to be disappointed. Yeah, that's pretty much the video. Thank you for watching. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Hope this helps someone.